Hey everyone, welcome back to the Weekly Awakening Podcast. This is your host, Cosmic Colleen, back with another weekly astrology update. I just got rid of that cue music real quick. It's the same music I have had since the very beginning, since when it was the Hair Healer Podcast, episode 1. And I don't know, I like to start with it, a little pop, a little pang, I don't know, but I know I just sometimes just shoot that shit right off. But anyway, we have an intense week this week, guys. If you remember on last week's episode, I said with this new moon in Cancer, let's get our energy right, let's get our emotional leveling right, let's get a little bit grounded, because this week's transits are going to be interesting. They're going to be hard, they're going to be good, they're going to be light, they're going to be dark, they're going to be kind of light and dreamy, and then kind of more serious shadow self. Both are existing this week. Now, in life, we can't escape the good, we can't escape the bad, and there is that polarity between them, and sometimes that polarity exists in the same moment, in the same week, in the same day. And this is definitely one of those weeks where it's like a little bittersweet, as you could say. I guess that's the right tone for that, bittersweet. So let's jump into this. Now, this morning, Monday, July 8th, 2024, we woke up with some interesting energy. Venus in Cancer, sextile Taurus and Uranus. Mercury sextile Jupiter. Mercury's in Leo right now. And then Jupiter in Gemini. And then Mercury trine Aries North Node. So this morning, it could have gone a little chaotic, but then quickly turned around, or the solution was pretty fast. And I'll say my predictions I wrote about a week ago. However, I'm recording it today. Someone in my life who has a prominent Gemini placement and a lot of Mercury, the funny way that this played out for them was there was this kind of standoff of what they needed them to do. One is the boss, one is someone doing work for them. And there was like, no, we can't, because it's, it could be bad on our end. And they were like, well, no, I need you to do it. It's not going to be bad on your end. It's going to be figured out. Just do it. And there was this little bit of a chaotic, stubborn, but fast kind of haul off, and I talked about that. So, especially for my Geminis out there. Now, Tuesday, July 9th, that is tomorrow, we have Jupiter in Gemini, sextile the North Node in Aries. That's going to be something light. Really, only Geminis and Aries are going to be feeling. Wednesday, July 10th, this is going to be one of this week's big transits. Sun, trine, Saturn. So we got the sun in the sign of Cancer, trine, which is a big delivery, a big promise, Saturn retrograde in Pisces. Excuse me. Thursday, July 11th, Venus, this is another big transit, will trine Neptune in Pisces, Cancer. Venus is on its way out of Cancer into Leo. And since Neptune's right at that end degree, it crosses over and trines, and then it goes into Pluto. It goes into Leo and immediately goes opposite Pluto. That's intense for the week, but it does not end there. I'm going to say until next Wednesday, it's going to be an intense week. So then we'll have a little bit cool down, but not really, because next Monday, Mars and Uranus will conjunct in the sign of Taurus, this is a pretty big conjunction that is happening. And again, we're going to talk about that on this episode. And then on Tuesday, Mercury retrograde begins its shadow period. Now, it's not as blunt or in our face as other Mercury, when Mercury retrograde is in its shadow period, but it begins the process of that retrograde. So there definitely can be some wonky things that day. Let's get into it, though. First of all, I hope everyone had a nice new moon in Cancer. It's interesting how it showed up. A lot of Capricorn moons in my life, or some other people that have some of those prominent placements, Cancer, whatever, they definitely had some emotional revealing or reckoning or releasing, like I talked about, that didn't quite look easy, but right away probably brought some peace. It brought some much needed peace. And I know for me, I ended up going hiking at Bushkill Falls up in the Poconos, a beautiful waterfall. Definitely touristy and crowdy, because I think it's one of the closest ones to New York City. However, it was a good workout as well. But I went to the bottom and I put my feet into the river coming off of the waterfall, and I did a very nice cleanse and meditation. And especially like cleansing, I used my feet, the energy from my feet, but also the path I walk, the light path I walk, and the things I choose. So I hope everyone had a very nice, calm, cool, and collected Cancer new moon. Now, this is just something I want to touch on today for my Leos and my Geminis who are listening. as well as other Mercury placement Virgos. Today, they're, like I said, open to something not being your way, a little bit of a stubborn, turnaround, or a little bit of a stubborn argument, but like a quick turnaround and being more open to ideas. Okay, if this isn't going to work, how can we make this work? Flexible communication, and again, coming up with and following through with a really nice fixed idea, as well as opening up to multiple ideas around your life path. Now, today also we have Venus sextile Uranus. So for my Cancer, Taurus, and Libra placements, bringing more joy into your home environment, into your daily environment. This is going to be great creative breakthrough energy, great for your creative breakthrough ideas. So make sure that you write down a little bit of a list. There's going to be more flow with intimacy, and Venus ruled people, you guys just might be a little more sensitive, as well as being a little bit more tuned in. This is great energy to help, again, process or help you move along that creative energy. It's a great time to do some Reiki, some meditation, some drawing, something to move and really kind of break through that creative energy. And then again, this is for my Leo people right now. And Leo and Aries, my fire people, you're going to be bringing ideas to life, or really today launching, bringing ideas to life, convincing someone of an idea, especially this week, forcing your will on someone. That goes pretty well, but by the end of the week, there could be a little bit of a push out. But for the most part, you are going to get your will, and it is going to be met. Now, Jupiter in Gemini, sextile South Node in Aries, feeling less lost, or, you finally feel the reason for that pain or that hard time, and you are now seeing the other side of that pain. Again, that's for Gemini, Aries placements. Whew! Now that Mercury's in Leo, you can hear me. I am on fire. I'm speaking fast. If you guys have been listening to my podcast for a long time, you've heard or known, or you've listened to me talk about, or probably picked up on yourself, the ways that I deliver this podcast kind of depends on where Mercury is. I'm an extremely Mercury-ruled person with a lot of Mercury-ruled placements. So right now we're in Leo and it's in a fire sign. I am da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. All my Geminis out there were probably talking extra and extra fast. Okay. Let's get into the bigger transits now. Those are just kind of the quick little transits, a little bump up for the beginning of the week. Wednesday, July 10th. The Sun in Cancer will trine Saturn retrograde in Pisces. So again, trine is a deliverance. Trine is something that is like the grand finale in like a really beautiful way, or you finally got to the other side of that mountain. You finally got the answer you wanted. That is trine. Like it's a very harmonious, lucky, bright configuration in astrology. So here are some of the themes that are going to be happening. Harmony with past or blocked emotions, especially with Saturn and Pisces right now. So my Cancer sons, there has been a lot of, over the last year, you not really so much of seeing it, like you kind of were going opposite for a while. You're now like harmonizing. You're very harmonious with those blocked past energies of the past, and you're finally coming full circle with that and healing that. And someone is finally delivering on a long-awaited promise, something that you were promised, something that you weren't sure when it was going to turn out. It is finally getting delivered, gaining more stability, or the work you did pays off to get more stability on your life path. So that work, you're finally seeing that stability, or you got a reward, or you got something, just good karma for the stability that you've created in your life. And that's for the water signs. And unfortunately, my water signs, I love you guys, but you guys are some of the most unstable in different ways, in a kind of an emotional way in astrology. I mean, that is a beautiful thing, though. That's why you guys can flow in and out of creative energy, or you guys are always on fire with your intuition or your creative energy. But it can also, you can get lost or not always create worlds of stability, because think of water. It's still, it's fast, it's high, it's coming, it's going, it's always changing and waiting. So for my water signs all together, okay? So I'm not just forgetting about, you guys, for my water signs all together, I'm Scorpio, so I'm not just forgetting about you guys. All together, it's kind of like gonna feel nice. There's now some stability on your life path. You're now feeling comfortable. So stay in that for as long as you can. Don't shake it up too much. Just kind of relish in that. This is going to be really kind of beginning and ending a full year cycle. And this is beginning a brand new cycle for you, a brand new season, especially for my Cancers. One of just stability, harmony, understanding, and like reaping the benefits of working hard or finally moving past that last really strong block. We could be feeling the family harmony after maybe periods of disagreement, especially maybe they came up in the springtime, maybe they were a year ago. All parties have kind of finally moved past it or came to a resolution or were able to communicate freely what they needed to communicate about. Sometimes, like I said, there can be also like you're feeling satisfied with where you are. It goes back to being stable, but you're also feeling satisfied where you are, my water signs. And sometimes, water signs, again, don't always fully feel satisfied. I find in all of my connections, they have some of the harder times feeling satisfied, especially emotionally satisfied, because, again, they're always tippy and turbying and going all over the place. But there's, I'm not picking on you guys, every single zodiac has, like we said, they're light, they're dark, they're good, they're bad, they're shadow, they're growth, and there's good to everything that maybe doesn't seem so great, but there is. And I love you guys. There's going to be releasing the change of karma, again, for my water placements. And when the planet, we'll talk about this, Saturn retrograde, when the planet is retrograde, it tends to behave in its opposite way. It tends to move backwards, right? We're moving backwards, so it goes over something again. It goes back to looking at something. It goes back to seeing something. It goes back to the lessons. But it also will behave in a different energy than it normally does. So Saturn normally behaves with sacrifice, that sacrifice energy and blocks and stops and restrictions and, worships kind of that longing for something within that hardship and like how are you made from that hardship? And it also has very solid, grounded energy, but things take a long time with Saturn at the end. It's not that easy, quick fix change. It's like the really long change that comes at the end. So during this retrograde, the Saturn energy is a little bit opposite. So it's more open. There's rewards for that hardships and those sacrifice we talked about. Moving through something with force instead of being blocked with force. You're moving through it with force and like a grounded mindset and a final understanding, which again, my water signs definitely need. There's going to be a lot of rewards being delivered this week. We're going to hear about it for the next few days, into next week, but a lot of rewards being delivered for hard sacrifices. And things are finally looking up for you, my water signs. They really are. Things are finally looking up to you and go in a nice, smooth way. Now, that could also be for my Capricorns. It's kind of like you guys are moving past, because remember, all this transit's happening opposite my Capricorn placement. So with this, there is sort of that emotional push through, which Capricorns try to avoid, but like you're finally in harmony and opening yourself up, which is going to be beautiful. Now, Venus trines Neptune. Venus is a fast-moving planet. Neptune's a distant planet. It's kind of something quick. But it's interesting leading up to the Pluto transit. Both are kind of quick but intense transits. So remember, at the end of the week, Venus on its way out of Neptune will trine Cancer, and then it moves into Leo. So at first, on Thursday, it's going to feel like a dreamy, harmonious, that's the word I was looking for earlier, harmonious feeling. I thought of the funniest quote the other day, and when I was listening to the songs, of course, 90s, early 2000s, a rap throwback. Big pun, I'm not a player anymore, but I love when he says, I'm not a player, but I crush a lot. I can relate. But I'm not a player, but I crush a lot. That is kind of this energy, Venus in Cancer, trine Neptune and Pisces, kind of getting lost a little bit within that fantasy crush. Lost in the delusion a little bit, but it's okay. It's not a bad thing. This can bring a healthy detachment to romanticizing a moment, but could also allow you to romanticize a moment. It's sometimes nice to just be in that moment. And one thing I've learned, I don't know how I'm going to explain this correctly, but sometimes we have connections and we always want something to be bigger than it is. But sometimes we have this connection. Maybe it's a romantic day with someone or a 3-hour conversation. And sometimes that's all it is. And we have to at first be like, oh my God, I met my soulmate. I met this, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes that's all it is that moment. And maybe that's the most important kind of moment, right? We're living in the moment. That's all we have. And so this transit can just kind of show up in that, romanticizing the moment. And sometimes that's beautiful, especially if you learn how to detach from the moment afterwards. Maybe that's what it's teaching us, is to just realize we can have these sort of intense romantic moments and then nothing beyond that. And I know that sounds kind of scary probably to some of my signs out there, but for other ones, it sounds kind of romantic in itself and beautiful and freeing and teaches us the art of detachment. So there can be that, having a romantic moment with someone and nothing past that, or just romanticizing the moment or the time that you're having someone, whatever, however this energy shows up, it will be fast. So just enjoy it. No matter how it shows up, just enjoy it. To give a funny little quick example, when I was down at my sister's, we were on a swamp tour, Honey Island Swamp, and it was a really great tour. And the guy that took us out was this like handsome 27-year-old, okay? Maybe, I'm guessing. And for like 1 minute, it's my Mercury. I always do this. I have, fall in love. He didn't Zuzzes know that for like actually 40 minutes. And he has a pet alligator. He lived on the swamp. He took this giant tin boat and moved this log out of the way. He grabbed a fish with his fucking hand, threw it at my kid. He swam. He grew up on this bayou, swam with alligators, grabbed an alligator by its tail. It was like really kind of like the Tarzan, of the bayou. And it was such a fantasy moment. It was so funny. I just like kind of dove into it with everyone down there. I was like, oh my God, imagine my life here on the bayou with my bayou prince. And obviously that would never happen, and for millions of things. And I left and I never saw him again. But kind of like, it was like a fun little fantasy. And I kind of romanticized for a second, like, who the hell just, has a pet alligator and grabbed a fish with his hand? I don't know. Maybe that's more common. I've tried it as a kid, but I certainly never grabbed a fish by the hand. This can also bring getting serious with your wants and desires for a deeper intimacy or connection, love affair. So getting a little bit deeper, getting past the illusions and getting to the truth. Then, a few hours later after that happens, Venus will go opposite Pluto. Totally different energy. This is where I'm saying that shadow energy is going to come and play. Deep and playful energy, with this week, there's a lot of energy happening between Cancer, Pisces, Taurus, Aquarius, Leo. So my fixed and my water signs. Now Venus is in Leo and it's going opposite Pluto in Aquarius, so we're getting a little bit serious again. We went from that romance to kind of getting a little bit serious and grounding ourselves with wisdom, with Saturn there, which we need. And, again, it looked and felt and was seen with some dreamy Delulu energy, but then we're kind of getting serious with Pluto now in the mix about our wants or desires and what is true, what is reality, what's realistic, what is attainable, and what's just a little fantasy. And again, that could be with our creative energy, job ideas, friendships, romance. I think a lot of romance. Now we're here to deal with our shadow side. And when we feel that shadow side come out to play, this is what we're going to ask ourselves. We all have a shadow side, okay? We all have it. We all have lived through it. We will live through it. It has many layers. And in my experience, 1 minute, or one day, I'm totally living in my higher self. And then one day, I'm totally living in my lower self. And I don't think both can exist without the other. But if we're in that lower self, now I don't want to say a shadow self is a lower self. I know we don't like that term, but it's not necessarily lower, it's just different, if that can make sense. It's the side that I saw quote once, the side that knows the fuck better. The shadow side is the side that knows the fuck better, but is also like, I'm going to do it anyway. And we all have that, some more than others. I definitely have that. But we are, there's my mailman. Sorry, he distracted me. I feel like he's always, when I do an afternoon episode, he always pops at the door. So we're going to ask ourselves, am I doing the right thing? So when these kind of shadow self moments come up, you know, you do the right thing. That's my number one motto. I think that's one of the best things I learned from growing up in the country in Western Pennsylvania. There's a lot of people who, there's a lot that aren't, but the general energy is you do the right thing. And so when we feel that shadow side come up where we're not sure how it feels, it kind of feels like the wrong thing, we're going to ask ourselves, am I doing the right thing? Now, this is going to be during the hard times, the spiritual conscious times, the playing the tape through times, you know, all of those wise times. These are going to show up this weekend, and we're going to say, am I doing the right thing? However, on the flip side, another way this transit might show up, and it might even show up both ways for you, is that sometimes we are doing the right thing, but someone, you know, or something maybe twisted, gaslighted, twisted our mind, created a guilt play, and we're only doing the right thing out of the guilt of another. It's actually not the right thing for us. It could be harmful for us, but we're still doing or acting on that because of the guilt. And we all have that guilt piece in us. We all can feel guilt, and we can all make other people feel guilty. And if you don't think you've ever done that, then you haven't looked hard enough at yourself, because I know I certainly have done that. However, I don't do it. I have a lot of awareness about it. I try not to do it so much, but it definitely still sometimes happens. I have grown up or was on the other side of the opposite. So I was always made to feel so guilty if any time I was asked or like placed a boundary or asked, you know, someone not to do something and it was like healthy on my benefit, I was made to feel guilty. So this is something I still struggle with, still work through, and I'm sure it's probably going to come up for me this weekend. So how can we work on that, right? If it does come up and say, wait, I shouldn't feel guilty here. I need some peace right now. You know, I need to do what's best for me, and you were twisting it around and making it what's best for you. How do we break through that? Well, you know, the number one thing I always say is self-awareness. Now, a lot of this is old-rooted guilt that most likely began, and on either way, if you're someone who gives a lot of guilt or you're someone who receives a lot of guilt and thinks that within yourself, it's deeply rooted. So first, self-awareness is going to have to be the first front, which it is. And self-awareness isn't just a one and done. It's usually a process of gaining awareness over time. So here's an example of a mental exercise. Yesterday, I went for a walk in the morning, and I only played frequencies, and I only prayed, and I said my affirmations and my words, and I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't want to do it. Not only didn't want to walk, it's hard for me to exercise and not just listen to music. Right? I love to listen to music, get in the flow, but that's actually really, that just takes me out of my mind. And so I said to myself, you're going to fucking do it right now. And I spent an hour and a half playing various frequencies. You know, I love my frequencies. And the whole time I either prayed or I said various affirmations, like I am healthy. Right now, that's one I'm really working on, like kind of getting my physical health together. Nothing's wrong with it, but I just want to be those Virgo placements in me want to be tip-top health, you know? And so I just said, I am healthy. I am healthy. I am healthy. And so you can use this time, just put on a frequency, and you can look up release guilt. And it's somewhere in the lower chakras. I want to say between 300 to 600, maybe 200 to 400, 500. But within there, find some release guilt, play that, and you can sit and meditate if you want it. Or go out and go for a walk and just repeat and say, I release this guilt. I release this guilt. This guilt no longer serves me. This guilt no longer stays with me. We release that guilt. It's something as simple as that. And sometimes it's hard to get past. The mind wants to say, no, play the music, play the stupid music over and over again. But this is what you got to do. And you got to say, no, I'm going to get mentally disciplined in the moment. And I'm going to get myself out of la la land. So, or you could do something like I did on the new moon and go to a nice lake or creek, and you can say the same thing, only let water wash you over and say, remove this guilt. I remove this guilt. And then we can be even more practical, though. You should definitely at least be able to go for a walk. But if you choose not to, again, you can find time to go for a walk, though, if you're online. But if you choose not to, sit and say, I release this guilt. I release this guilt. And I just thought about it. Did I just make you guys feel guilty for not going for a walk? I just thought about that for a second. But if you choose to just sit and, at least put on a guilt-free, a removing of guilt frequency and say, I remove this guilt. I remove this guilt. Now, that's going to be an exercise, not one and done works. You'll feel the relief in the moment, the day, the week, but it's something you should do quite often and continue to gain awareness, whether through just your own self-reflection, a therapist, a friend, something there to really help you remove yourself from that guilt. And we can remove things. We can remove things from our subconscious, but like I say, it does take work. Now, this can also bring up a power struggle amongst loved ones, relationship, a workplace, but again, a power struggle there, or a love power struggle, chaos that stems from a power struggle, or maybe a power struggle that then releases chaos will definitely be one. Think about last week. So Mercury already did it. Mercury, it's not that scary. Mercury, the planet, which would show up kind of big, already did that last Wednesday, went opposite Pluto. I'd already passed that. Think about last Wednesday. What happened? Were there any power struggles that came up? It could be, it doesn't all mean major, right? Who knows how this plays out? We all have these transits, but they're happening throughout our life. So sometimes it shows up very small. And some of these Venus transits, they happen every year. Sometimes it shows up small. Sometimes it shows up very, very big. So this depends. Hopefully it shows up small for everyone. I can say that. So it could be as easy as you get into a little bit of a power tiff at the doctor's office with the front desk about an appointment that you made but you didn't make. So it can show up just like that. Now, next Monday, then we go into the weekend, but it's gonna be an interesting weekend. I want to say Saturday will feel the best day. Starting Sunday, we're gonna be gearing up for that. All weekend, really gonna be gearing up for that Mars inching closer to Uranus and Taurus energy. I think it will be a good pick-me-up because since Mars moved into Taurus, we've definitely been all a little bit slower. I know I have. Moving a little bit slower. So the exact conjunction is next Monday at 10:04 a.m. Eastern time. And it's sort of like you climb up the hill. This is how it happens. We're going to start feeling it Sunday, I feel like. Maybe Saturday night. Climbing up the hill. Saturday morning, you reach the peak. We're on the peak all day. And then by, let's say 4 a.m. going into Tuesday, we go down. And then we kind of flatten out the curve. And Mars is conjunct Uranus in Taurus. It happens right now since Uranus has been in Taurus. We've had it a few times, but it doesn't happen all the time. And this is really interesting energy for Taurus Scorpio placements. So you guys are like, I'm so over this. It seems like there's been so much, and there has been since we just finished eclipse season with you guys. But after this should calm down. This really should calm down all of your lives. But again, this can bring a sudden stop or slow down in a chaotic way, especially for my Taurus Scorpio placements. Just like, oh, I didn't see that coming and now I'm forced to slow down. So if you haven't slowed down, this might stop you to slow down. And it's going to be quick. It's not something that's going to be super long hold, like a permanent slowdown, but it's definitely going to slow you down. And again, it can come in a little bit of a chaotic way, or maybe you just sort of have a little bit of a nervous breakdown or just like, I can't take this anymore. I just need to go run away. That sort of feeling can definitely happen next Monday. Finding more peace and letting go of chaos. You might have to let it go in a chaotic way, but then it kind of brings you that instant peace right away where you're like, oh, all right, what just happened? That was chaotic, but I feel good right now. Sudden, stubborn slowdown. Again, you didn't see it coming. Uranus is out of nowhere. It's kind of shocking. It's electrifying. But it is a sudden, stubborn slowdown. Like, no, I don't want to do that. I can only imagine how it's going to be with my Taurus placement on Monday because he is I already foresee that, kind of stubborn, be like, I'm not going there. I'm not doing that, and I'm not leaving the house, and you're not going to force me. That kind of very people. I don't think the general energy on next Monday is going to be like super fluffy and happy. I'm sorry. We do have those Mondays where it is. Today was a pretty good Monday. Next Monday, I do not foresee that. I feel it being a lot of like chaotic, just anxious energy, or more fightful energy, or more argumentative, stubborn. That's going to be the general feel. A lot of people walking around hangry. But again, it's going to be, the energy will be more easily irritated, moody, grumpy. Also, this is a nice sudden twist at the end. This can bring some surprise sexual energy, actually. So I feel like, I don't know, there is that. I think like some fun sexual energy. I don't think, hard or bad. I think more of a fun, exciting, like, ooh, let me get down and through this intimacy and have some freaky sexy sex. But that is a lot. And then next Tuesday, Mercury begins its shadow phase. My Mercury people are going to feel that more in the shadow phase than everyone else, but it's going to be a little bit of a wonky week. I hope you guys could all follow that. Pretty much every one of us signs are going to be feeling it one way or another. And remember, the message, the weekly awakening is, am I doing the right thing? And that can save you from a lot of trouble. I promise you, it can save you from a lot of trouble. Am I doing the right thing? Is this doing the right thing? It can save you from a lot of future trouble. I love you all. Have a fabulous week. Survive this week. You will be fine. You got yourselves emotionally grounded. And don't forget to put on a frequency and tune out. Love you all. Goodbye.